The year was 2847. Humanity had lived among the stars for 300 years. They had joined the Galactic Council with hope in their hearts. They had believed they would find friends out there in the darkness between worlds. They were wrong. The Council was old. It's very old. 12 species sat at its great table, and the oldest of them all were the Valorans. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Their minds could touch other minds. They could read thoughts. They could bend wills. They had kept peace across 1,000 star systems, and they had done it through fear. Humans were different from the others. They could not read minds. They could not live for 1,000 years. They could not breathe in poison air or swim through acid seas. To the Council, humans were like children, weak, stupid, emotional. The other species laughed at them in the great halls. They gave humans the worst seats. They ignored human voices when decisions were made. Admiral Park Suho had watched this for 40 years. He was 67 now, and his hair had turned white. But his eyes were still sharp. He sat in his office on Earth and looked at reports that no alien had ever seen. Reports about human ships, human weapons, human soldiers. For decades, while the galaxy laughed, humanity had been building. Dr. Kim Yuna was younger. She was 42, and she served as humanity's voice in the Council. Every month, she traveled to the great station at the center of the galaxy. Every month, she spoke for her people. And every month, the Valorans looked through her like she was made of glass. On the day everything changed, Dr. Kim stood before the Council. The Valoran High Speaker had just announced a new law. 3 human colony worlds would be taken. 2 million humans would have to leave their homes. The Valorans wanted the planets for themselves. This is not fair, Dr. Kim said. These are our worlds. Our people built them from nothing. The High Speaker smiled. It was not a kind smile. You will leave, he said. This is decided. The vote was quick. All 12 species raised their hands. All except humanity. But one vote meant nothing against 11. The law passed. 2 million humans had 30 days to abandon everything they had built. Dr. Kim returned to Earth that night. She did not sleep on the long journey home. She sat in her small cabin and stared at the stars passing by. She thought about the children on those colony worlds. She thought about the farms and the schools and the hospitals that humans had made with their own hands. All of it would be gone. The United Earth Parliament met in emergency session. The great chamber was full. Every seat was taken. The leaders of humanity sat in silence as Dr. Kim gave her report. She told them everything. The vote, the smiles, the way the Valorans had looked at her when they took human worlds. When she finished, no one spoke. The silence was heavy. It pressed down on everyone in the room. Then Admiral Park Suho stood up. He was old, and he moved slowly. But when he spoke, his voice was strong. For 300 years, we have been good guests in their galaxy. We have followed their rules. We have accepted their insults. We have watched them take what is ours and said nothing. He paused. His eyes moved across the chamber. They have made their choice. Now we make ours? The President of Earth looked at him. What are you saying, Admiral? I am saying that we are done being quiet. I am saying that we have built something they do not know about. Ships, weapons, technology they cannot imagine. For 40 years, I have prepared for this day. The old Admiral's voice did not shake. I am saying we should declare war. The chamber exploded with noise. Some shouted in anger. Some shouted in fear. War against the Council? It was madness. The Valorans alone had 10,000 ships. The full Council had 100,000. Humanity had maybe 5,000. It was suicide. But Admiral Park raised his hand, and slowly the noise died down. They think they know us, he said. They think we are weak. They think we are stupid. Let them think this. Let them laugh. When they stop laughing, it will already be too late. It was the longest 3 hours in human history. When it was done, the result was clear. Humanity would not run. Humanity would not hide. Humanity would fight. Captain Lee Doyan received the news on her ship. the ESS Horizon. She was young, only 34, and she had commanded humanity's most advanced warship for just 2 years. When the message came through, she read it 3 times. Then she smiled. It was not a kind smile. Finally, she said to her first officer, "Finally, we stopped pretending." The S Horizon was not like other human ships. It was not like any ship in the galaxy. It could disappear from sensors. It could strike from nowhere. It carried weapons that could cut through any shield. For 10 years, Captain Lee had trained her crew in secret. They had practiced attacks that no alien had ever seen. They were ready. Earth's emergency broadcast system activated at exactly midnight. The message went out to every human world, every human ship, every human station. It was simple. Just 12 words. The United Earth Parliament declares war on the Galactic Council. Effective immediately. On the great station at the center of the galaxy, the Valoran High Speaker received the message. He read it once. Then he laughed. He laughed so hard that tears ran down his face. Around him, other council members laughed too. Humans declaring war? It was the funniest thing they had ever heard. "Let them come," the High Speaker said, when he could speak again. "We will teach these children what happens when you challenge your betters." He sent a fleet of 200 ships to human space. It was a small fleet. It's an insult. 200 ships to crush a species. The Valorans did not think they needed more. Back on Earth, Admiral Park Suho watched the enemy fleet leave Council space. He sat in his command center, surrounded by screens showing every ship, every movement, every piece of data. His officers worked quietly around him. No one was laughing here. "He sent 200, his aide said. "Yes," the Admiral replied. "They think it will be enough." "Will it?" Admiral Park leaned back in his chair. For the first time in years, he smiled. "Let them come," he said softly. "Let them all come. And then let us show them what humanity really is." The galaxy was still laughing. They would not laugh for long. 3 days had passed since humanity declared war. The Valoran fleet moved through space like a silver river. 200 warships, each one larger than a small city, each one carrying weapons that could burn a planet. High Arbiter Thiessen stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the stars slide by. Thiessen was old, even for a Valoran. He had lived for 800 years. He had fought in a dozen wars. He had never lost. Now he was being sent to punish a species of children, and he found it boring. This was not a war. This was a lesson. "How long until we reach human space?" he asked. "For hours, High Arbiter," his navigator replied. Thiessen nodded slowly. His telepathic officers sat around him, their minds reaching out into the void. They could sense living thoughts from light years away. It was how Valorans had won every war. You cannot hide from someone who can hear your mind. "What do you sense ahead?" Thiessen asked. The lead telepath frowned. "Nothing, High Arbiter. There is interference, static. I cannot find any human minds." This was strange, but Thiessen did not worry. Human minds were weak. Perhaps they were simply too far away to detect. He would find them soon enough. At the edge of human space, Commander Chomira waited. Her fleet was small, just 50 ships. They hung in the darkness between stars, completely invisible. Their engines were cold. Their weapons were silent. Even their crew barely breathed. Chomira was 38 years old. She had black hair cut short and eyes that never seemed to blink. Her crew called her the Ice Queen, but never to her face. She was the finest tactical mind humanity had ever produced, and today she would prove it. "The enemy fleet has entered sensor range," her officer reported quietly. "I see them," Chomira replied. She watched 200 red dots move across her screen. They came in a standard formation, predictable, arrogant. They expected nothing. "Hold position. No one moves until I give the order." Her ships were not like normal ships. They were covered in special material that ate sensor signals. They produced no heat. They made no sound. To the Valoran fleet, they did not exist. The Valorans crossed into human territory. High Arbiter Thiessen felt a moment of confusion. Where were the human ships? Where was the pathetic defense fleet that would beg for mercy? He saw nothing. Just empty space. This is strange, he said. Are they hiding? Perhaps they ran away, his second officer laughed. Perhaps they realized their mistake, Thiessen frowned. Something felt wrong. The static in his telepath's minds was getting stronger. It was like trying to see through fog. Continue forward, he ordered. But stay alert. Communication channel opened. A human voice came through the speakers, clear and cold. You are in human space now. This is your only warning. Turn back. Thiessen laughed. He could not help it. A human was warning him. 200 Valoran warships, the finest in the galaxy, and a human was telling him to leave? Who speaks? He demanded. Commander Chomira, of the Earth Space Navy. Turn your fleet around, or I will destroy you. The bridge erupted in laughter. Even Thiessen's telepath smiled. Destroy them? With what? Harsh words? Little human, Thiessen replied. I have 800 years of combat experience. I have destroyed fleets 10 times the size of yours. You have nothing that can hurt me. Now stand aside, and perhaps I will make your death quick. There was silence on the channel. Then the human woman spoke again. You were warned. The channel closed. Thiessen shook his head. Foolish creatures. Continue forward. Find their fleet and destroy it. His ships moved deeper into human space. 1 minute passed, then 2. The static grew stronger. Thiessen's telepaths held their heads, confused. They could not sense anything. It was like being blind. Then the first ship exploded. It happened without warning. One moment the ship was there. The next moment it was fire and metal. Thiessen spun toward his sensors. What happened? Who attacked? I do not know. His officer shouted. There was nothing on sensors. Nothing. A second ship exploded. Then a third. Then 10 more. Thiessen watched in horror as his fleet began to die. Fire bloomed in the darkness like terrible flowers. Ships broke apart. Escape pods launched and were immediately destroyed. Turn fire. Thiessen screamed, find them and return fire. But there was nothing to fire at. The human ships were ghosts. They struck from nowhere, killed and vanished. Valoran weapons fired into empty space. Valoran shields flickered and failed against weapons that cut through them like paper in 7 minutes. It was over. Chomira watched the last Valoran ship break apart on her screen. 50 human ships. 200 enemy ships. Not a single human life lost. Around her, her bridge crew sat in stunned silence. They had done it. They had actually done it. Send a message to Earth, she said quietly. Tell Admiral Park that the Kepler threshold is secure, and send the Valoran flagship's last transmission to every frequency in the galaxy. Let them hear. High Arbiter Theson's final moments had been recorded. In those moments, the ancient warrior had felt something he had not felt in 800 years. Fear, pure, absolute terror. His voice cracked as he screamed orders that no one could follow. His hands shook as his ship died around him. When the recording played across council space, no one laughed. The high speaker of the Valorans heard it in his chambers. He listened to his old friend die. He heard the fear. And for the first time in his long life, he felt cold. Oh, what are they? Someone whispered in the council chamber. What are these humans? No one had an answer. On Earth, Admiral Park Suho received Commander Chomira's report. He read it 3 times. 50 ships against 200. 7 minutes. 0 losses. It was better than he had hoped. Much better, sir, his aide said. The council is demanding answers. They want to know what weapons we used. How we hid from their telepaths. Let them wonder, Park replied. Let them spend sleepless nights trying to understand. Fear is a weapon too, and right now, fear is spreading. He looked at the map of the galaxy on his wall. So many stars. So many species that had laughed at humanity. This was just the beginning, he said. The real war starts now. Across the galaxy, species that had ignored humans for centuries suddenly began to pay attention. They looked at the recordings from the Kepler threshold. They saw 200 ships become dust in 7 minutes. They heard High Arbiter Thiessen scream. The galaxy had stopped laughing. Now, slowly, the galaxy began to fear. 2 weeks had passed since the Battle of Kepler Threshold. 2 weeks since 200 Valoran warships became nothing but floating metal and frozen bodies. The news had traveled fast. Every species in the galaxy knew what had happened. Every species was afraid. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. The Great Chamber was full, but it was quiet. No one laughed now. No one made jokes about the weak little humans. They sat in their seats and stared at the empty space where the human representative used to sit. The Valoran High Speaker stood at his podium. His face was calm, but his hands shook slightly. He had lost 200 ships. He had lost High Arbiter Thiessen, his oldest friend. He had lost something more important than ships or friends. He had lost the belief that Valorans could not be beaten. "We will send a larger fleet," he announced. 1,000 ships. The humans got lucky. It will not happen again. But even as he spoke, doubt filled the room. Lucky? Was that really what happened? The recordings showed something else. They showed human ships appearing from nowhere. They showed weapons that cut through Valoran shields like they were made of paper. They showed perfect coordination, perfect timing, perfect death. "Before you send more ships to die," a voice called out, "perhaps you should listen to what we have to say." Everyone turned. A human woman walked into the chamber. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with long black hair and steady eyes. She wore a simple uniform with no medals, no decorations. She walked like she owned the room. "Who are you?" the High Speaker demanded. "How did you get in here?" "My name is Yoon Hannah. I am humanity's new ambassador. And I walked through your front door." She smiled. "Your guards tried to stop me? They are sleeping now." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Security forces rushed forward, but Ambassador Yoon raised her hand. "I would not do that," she said calmly. "Right now, 3 human ships are holding position just outside this station. If I do not send a message every 5 minutes, they will open fire." The security forces stopped. They looked at the High Speaker. He nodded slowly, and they stepped back. "You dare threaten the Council?" the High Speaker hissed. "I dare to be honest," Ambassador Yoon replied. "Something this Council has not been for a very long time." She walked to the center of the chamber and looked around at the alien faces watching her. "For 300 years, you treated us like dirt. You laughed at us. You took our worlds. You told us we were nothing." She paused. Her voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the room. "Did you never stop to wonder why we did not fight back? Did you think we could not? Did you think we were really so weak?" The Valoran High Speaker leaned forward. "What are you saying, human?" "I am saying that for 300 years, we watched you. We learned your technology. We studied your tactics. We found your weaknesses." Ambassador Yoon's smile grew wider. "And while you were busy laughing at us, we built weapons you cannot imagine. Ships you cannot see. Soldiers you cannot break." A Valoran officer tried to reach into her mind. He wanted to read her thoughts, to find out if she was lying. His face twisted in pain. He grabbed his head and fell to his knees. "Neural implants," Ambassador Yoon said, tapping her temple. "Every human soldier has them now. Your mind tricks do not work on us anymore." Fear spread through the chamber like cold water. The Valorans had ruled through telepathy for 10,000 years. It was their greatest weapon. And now it was useless against humans. "What do you want?" the High Speaker asked. His voice had lost its strength. "Want?" Ambassador Yoon laughed. "I want you to understand something. Every ship in your combined fleets, we can destroy them. Every world you hold dear, we can reach them. Every city, every station, every base. We have spent 300 years preparing for this war." She stepped closer to the podium. "This war ends when we decide it ends, not before." "You are bluffing," someone shouted from the back of the chamber. Ambassador Yoon did not even turn to look. "Am I? Would you like to test that?" Send your 1,000 ships. Send 10,000. Send everything you have. We will still be standing when you are dust." She turned and walked toward the door. Before she left, she stopped and looked back. "Oh, and one more thing. Dr. Kim Yuna sends her regards. She is Earth's Minister of Defense now. She wanted me to tell you that she remembers every insult, every stolen world, every human who suffered because of your arrogance." Her eyes were cold. "We all remember." The door closed behind her. The chamber sat in stunned silence. That night, everything changed. 3 minor species contacted humanity in secret: the Karathi Syndicate, the Peleron Collective, and the small but proud Nexu Federation. They did not want to fight anymore. They had seen the recordings from Kepler's threshold. They had watched Ambassador Yoon make the Valoran high. Speaker looked like a frightened child. Chancellor Vix of the Karathi Syndicate sent a personal message to Admiral Park Suho. "We were wrong about your species," he wrote. "We should have looked more carefully. Perhaps it is not too late to be friends." Admiral Park read the message and smiled. This was what he had hoped for. The Council was not one enemy. It was 12 species held together by Valoran power. Without that power, the alliance would crumble. "Accept the Karathi offer," he told his staff. "And the others. Be generous. Be kind. Show them that humans can be good allies." His eyes hardened. "Save our anger for those who deserve it." Back on Earth, Dr. Kim Yuna watched the news from the Council station. She saw Ambassador Yoon walk out of those grand chambers, head held high. She remembered all the times she had walked those same halls with her head down. All the times she had been ignored or insulted. "How does it feel?" Her assistant asked. Kim Yuna thought about it for a long moment. "It feels like the beginning," she said finally. "The real work is just starting. We have not won yet. We have only started fighting." She turned back to her screens, covered with military data and strategy maps. The galaxy was afraid now. That was good. Fear would make some species surrender. Fear would make others think twice before attacking. But fear alone would not win this war. Somewhere out there, the Council was gathering its strength. They would come with everything they had. And when they did, humanity would be ready. The galaxy held its breath and waited for the storm. 6 months had passed. The war had spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The Council had gathered the largest fleet in history, 10,000 warships from 12 species. It was a force that could burn worlds. It was a force that could end civilizations. And it was coming for Earth. Admiral Park Suho stood on the bridge of the ESS Eternal Humanity's mobile command fortress. It was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons and shields. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. Data flowed across screens. Communications hummed with reports from 100 star systems. The Admiral had not slept in 3 days. He did not need to. Neural implants kept his mind sharp, his body strong. He watched the enemy fleet move towards Sol System, and he felt no fear. Only calculation. "They outnumber us 20 to 1, his aide said quietly. "Numbers are not everything," Park replied. "They are fighting the way they have always fought. Large fleets. Direct attacks. Head-to-head battles," he smiled grimly. "We will not give them that kind of war." The plan was called Operation Ghostfire. It had taken 40 years to prepare. And now, across 200 star systems, it began. Human ships did not meet the Council fleet in battle. Instead, they struck everywhere else. Supply stations exploded in the night. Communication satellites went dark. Power grids on alien worlds failed without warning. Food shipments disappeared in transit. Lieutenant Beekjia was 26 years old. She flew a small attack craft, just big enough for a pilot and a mountain of weapons. Her squadron had been given a simple mission: destroy the Valoran primary shipyard. It was deep in enemy space. It was heavily guarded. It was supposed to be impossible to reach. Remember, her squad leader said before they launched, "We are not coming back. This is a one-way trip." Beekjia nodded. She had known this when she volunteered. Every pilot in her squadron had known. They were not afraid. They were honored. Her squadron slipped through Valoran space like shadows. They avoided patrol ships. They hid in asteroid fields. They traveled slowly, carefully, patiently. It took 2 weeks to reach the shipyard. When they arrived, Beekjia looked at the massive station through her cockpit window. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Hundreds of ships being built. Thousands of workers. The heart of Valoran military power. She opened a channel to her squadron. "They made us into monsters," she said. Her voice was steady. "Now they meet the monster." Her squadron attacked. 20 small ships against a station that could build battleships. It should have been impossible. But human weapons were different. They found weak points. They created chain reactions. They turned the station's own power against it. In 12 minutes, the primary shipyard was gone. 20 human pilots died, but they took 50,000 Valorans with them. And they destroyed ships that would have taken years to replace. Beekjia's final transmission was recorded. It spread across human space within hours. Her words became a rallying cry. Soldiers painted them on their ships. Children learned them in school. They made us into monsters. Now they meet the monster. Captain Lee Doyon commanded the 2nd Assault Fleet now. The S Horizon led 50 warships, and they had become the Council's nightmare. They appeared from nowhere, struck hard, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. In 6 months, Captain Lee had destroyed 300 enemy ships. She had never lost a battle. Her crew worshipped her. Her enemies feared her name. "Captain," her sensor officer reported. "We have detected a group of ships surrendering." Lee looked at her screen. A small fleet of cargo ships had stopped running. They were broadcasting peace signals. They wanted to give up. "Approach carefully," she ordered. It might be a trap. It was not a trap. The cargo ships belonged to the Peleron Collective, one of the species that had secretly allied with humanity. They were carrying supplies meant for the Council fleet. Now they wanted to bring those supplies to Earth instead. "Thank you for accepting our surrender," the Peleron captain said over the communication channel. His voice trembled. "We have seen what you did to the Valorans. We do not want to fight you. We never did." Captain Lee nodded slowly. "You made a wise choice. Follow us to safe harbor. No harm will come to you." As her fleet escorted the cargo ships away, Lee thought about what this meant. The Council was breaking. Species were abandoning the Alliance. The war was not just about battles anymore. It was about making enemies into friends. Back at the Council fleet, chaos had taken hold. The 10,000 ships had become 8,000. Then 7,000. Supply lines were cut. Communications were unreliable. Commanders argued with each other. Species blamed each other for failures. The Council fleet had come to destroy humanity. Instead, it was destroying itself. Admiral Park watched it all from the ESS Eternal. His officers brought him reports every hour. Ships surrendering. Alliances breaking. Panic spreading through enemy ranks. "The Valorans are trying to hold the fleet together," his intelligence officer reported. "But the other species are losing faith. They expected a quick victory. Instead, they are starving in the dark between stars." Park nodded. "Send Commander Cho Myra to offer terms. Any species that surrenders now will be treated fairly. Those who continue to fight," he did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. On Earth, Dr. Kim Yuna coordinated the diplomatic efforts. While soldiers fought, she talked. She made promises. She offered friendship to those who abandoned the Council. In 6 months, 5 species had switched sides. 3 more were considering it. "We are winning," her assistant said, looking at the latest reports. "We are not winning yet," Kim Yuna replied. "We are making winning possible. The real victory comes when the Valorans fall." She looked at the map of the galaxy. So many stars. So many worlds. So much death and suffering, but also so much hope. Humanity was not just fighting a war. They were building something new. Something better. The Council fleet limped toward Sol System. It was still large, still dangerous, but it was wounded now, bleeding, dying. Admiral Park Suho watched them come. He had one final trap prepared. One final surprise. When the Council fleet arrived, they would find not a beaten enemy waiting for them. They would find their doom. The war was almost over, and humanity was still standing. 1 year, that was all it took. 1 year to break an empire that had stood for 10,000 years. 1 year to change everything the galaxy had ever known. The Valoran homeworld burned. Not with fire, but with fear. Human ships hung in the sky like dark angels. Their weapons pointed at every city, every building, every last hope the Valorans had left. The war was over. Humanity had won. Admiral Park Suho walked through the ruins of the council chambers. His boots crunched on broken glass and fallen stone. The great hall where humanity had once been laughed at was empty. Now, silent. The seats where 12 species had voted against human interests were covered in dust. Behind him walked the architects of victory, Dr. Kim Yuna, who had turned enemies into friends. Ambassador Yoon Hana, who had made the council fear. Captain Lee Doyon, whose ship had killed more enemies than any other. Commander Cho Mira, who had won the first battle. And Lieutenant Beek Jia, somehow alive against all odds, saved from her wrecked ship by a rescue team who refused to give up. "It is strange," Admiral Park said, his voice echoing in the empty chamber. "I spent 40 years preparing for this, and now that it is here, I do not feel joy. What do you feel?" Dr. Kim asked. The old admiral was quiet for a long moment. "Tired," he finally said, "and responsible. We have broken something that cannot be fixed. Now, we must build something new." The galaxy watched as humanity prepared to speak. Every screen on every world showed the same image. Admiral Park Suho standing in the ruins of the council chambers. Trillions of beings waited to hear what the victors would say. "You taught us, Admiral," Park began, his voice carried across the stars by quantum broadcast. "For 300 years, you taught us what the galaxy rewards. Power, strength, the willingness to use both without mercy." He paused. "We were good students. We learned everything you had to teach. We learned to fight. We learned to kill. We learned to win." In viewing rooms across 1,000 worlds, aliens sat in terrified silence. They expected revenge. They expected punishment. They expected humanity to do what every conqueror in history had done, crush the defeated and take everything they had. "But we are not you," Admiral Park continued. His voice softened. "We remember what it was like to be weak, to be ignored, to have our homes stolen and our voices silenced. We remember the feeling of helplessness. We remember the anger and the pain." He looked directly into the camera. His eyes were old and tired, but they held no hatred. "And so we offer something you never offered us. A choice." The watching galaxy held its breath. "We could rule you," Admiral Park said. "We have the power. We have the ships. We could become what you were, masters of the galaxy, tyrants who crush all who oppose us." He shook his head slowly. "But that is not who we are. That is not who we want to be." Dr. Kim Yuna stepped forward. She would lead what came next. The Terran Concordat, they were calling it. A new kind of government. A new kind of alliance. "Today we announce the end of the Galactic Council," she said, "and the birth of something better. The Terran Concordat will be a place where every species has an equal voice, where the strong protect the weak instead of crushing them, where no world can be stolen, no people can be silenced, no voice can be ignored." She looked at the empty seats around her. Soon they would be filled again, but not with the same species in the same order. Not with the Valorans at the top and everyone else below. True equality. True partnership. "Every species, no matter how small, will have one vote," she continued. "Every species will be protected. Every species will have a chance to grow and thrive. We are not offering you submission. We are offering you something humanity was never given. We are offering you respect." Across the galaxy, reactions were mixed. Some species wept with relief. They had expected destruction and found mercy instead. Others were suspicious. Surely there was a trap. Surely humanity wanted something in return. But the Korathi, the Peleron, the Nexu, and the 5 other species who had already joined humanity stepped forward to stand beside Dr. Kim. They had seen how humans treated their allies. They had received kindness where they expected cruelty. They believed the Valoran delegation arrived last. They walked into the chamber with their heads down, expecting punishment. Instead, Dr. Kim offered them seats. Equal seats, the same as everyone else. You will not be destroyed, she told them. You will not be enslaved. You will be members of the Concordat, with the same rights and the same responsibilities as every other species. Her voice hardened slightly. But you will never rule over others again. Those days are over, the Valoran leader looked at her. Fear was written across his ancient face. Why? He asked. Why show us mercy? We showed you none. Dr. Kim smiled sadly. Because if we become what you were, then you win. All your cruelty, all your arrogance, all your evil would live on in us. We choose to be different. We choose to be better. She turned to address the galaxy one final time. 300 years ago, we came to the stars hoping to find friends. We found masters instead. Today, we offer the galaxy something new. True partnership. Those who stand with us will never stand alone. Those who threaten peace will learn what we learned at Kepler Threshold. Her eyes were steady. Humanity does not forget, and humanity does not forgive. But we do move forward. We do build. We do hope. Admiral Park Suho watched from the side of the chamber. His war was over. A new era was beginning. He felt the weight of the years pressing down on him. So much death. So much sacrifice. Lieutenant Beekjia and her squadron. The countless soldiers who never came home. The civilians who died in the crossfire. Was it worth it? Captain Lee asked quietly, standing beside him. The old admiral considered the question. He looked at the Valoran delegation, sitting among equals for the first time in their species' history. He looked at the other aliens, once enemies, now partners. He looked at Dr. Kim Yuna, who would lead humanity into a new future. Ask me in 100 years, he said. If the Concordat is still standing, if peace has held, if species that once hated each other can work together. He smiled slightly. Then yes, it was worth everything. Outside the chamber, the galaxy was changing. Old hatreds were fading. New alliances were forming. It would not be easy. There would be challenges and setbacks and moments when everything seemed ready to fall apart. But humanity had proven something important. The strong did not have to crush the weak. Victory did not have to mean revenge. It was possible to win a war and still keep your soul. The species that had declared war had won. But more importantly, species that had shown mercy had changed the galaxy forever. And somewhere out there, the dark between stars, a new future was being born.